Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing good. It's your girl Seeker in the house. Happy Sunday to everybody. And I hope your week ahead is blessed. That everything that you touch, everything that you want to do in this life, that it works out for you this week. So I'm here this morning wanting to have a conversation and discussion around financial decision making and how couples tackle the issue of finances in their relationship. This is a very interesting topic because different people have different ways of managing things, and everybody has their system in place about what works for them. I'm not here to prescribe any particular route to be better off than the other, but I'm just here to highlight some of the issues that arise from all the things that I have experienced and learned on my own journey, especially in recent times when, through what I do to survive on a daily basis, I have a bird's eye view into people's lives and see how things run in other people's day-to-day things, and trying to use some of the things that I've picked up along the journey to help us to make rational decisions about how things are going to be for us in our community. Good morning to everybody. Sister Sarah, good morning. Desra, good morning. Sister Sherry, good morning to everybody. Sister Catherine, Roxy, how are you doing, sweetheart? Good morning to everyone. So, in our community as people of color, the things that I have personally experienced and seen happen is that trust is a very big thing. That in recent times, some people have trusted their significant others and had success with everything. Other people have left everything, like completely trusted their spouses and significant others with everything, and had their fingers and every part of their body burnt so badly. It's down to you at the end of the day, the level of tolerance of trust that you're able to give to your significant other. Thank you, Sister Roxy. I'm not here to, describe to you or prescribe to you what you should do. Your partner is your partner. Ultimately, you know them. You live with them on a daily basis. And the attitudes that they have exhibited to you would demonstrate the level of trust that they deserve to have. However, ultimately, I feel that even if you're entrusting your husband to be the one that takes care of the family's finances, or your wife to be the one that takes care of the family's finances, that at least as the other couple, you should be aware of the decisions that they're making, the assets, the investments, what you're doing together as a family. You should at least have some kind of an idea about what is happening, so that you don't find yourself wanting when impossible and unfortunate circumstances, which are sometimes inevitable and out of your hands, happen. The first thing I want to touch on is the issue of joint accounts. So couples get married and they decide that we're going to have one pot, and every money that comes in from me, from you, is going to go into that one pot, and we are going to spend that money together. There's nothing like this is for me and this is for you. It's our money. And so we are going to look after our money. I have seen the Caucasians and the Asians do this successfully. Some people, that's what they do. For other people, they choose to have it separate. Like I said, I'm not here to prescribe what you should do. I've seen some of my brothers and sisters that look like me do this and have successes of it. I have also spoken to people who have their own separate accounts that their salaries go into. And then they also have a joint account, which is where all the expenditure goes. So they have an account that both people put monies into, and that's what they use to pay their mortgage, utilities, feed themselves, holidays, everything. And each person gets to keep their own account with their little monies, and they decide what they want to do. Do whatever works best for you. But I'm saying that the conversation around finances in your relationship is important. We want to talk about our emotional well-being. We want to talk about how the intimacy goes. We want to address communication and how ineffective it can be, blah, blah, blah. But when it comes to finances, a lot of people shy away from it because it's not a very comfortable, romantic conversation. But the truth about it is money makes the world go round. You cannot do anything in your marriage or relationship long term without having that serious, important financial conversation. I'm sorry, but even the bed that you knock on, that bed was bought with money. The house that you're living in was bought with money. Somebody says, welcome. I disagree with joint accounts with my wife. She should keep hers and I'll keep mine as well. Like I said, I'm not here to prescribe anything about what anybody should do. I'm just highlighting how people choose to live. You do what works best for you based on your own beliefs. Some people are very coy and protective of their money. And if it's not a comfortable thing for you to do, to have a joint account with your significant other, you can't be made a bad person just because you want to have financial control. I don't believe that. But do what works for you, but have the important conversations as well. Because, especially when you have children, it doesn't just then become about you versus him or him versus you. There are children involved that you've made, and you have a responsibility to make sure that you're making financial decisions with them in mind, so that tomorrow when you're not here, you've left a legacy for your children. I think it's absolutely selfish when parents do things that don't leave the children that they left behind with anything worth having. So this is part of the reason why we're having this conversation. Another thing is also that we all go into marriage with the best intentions, that it's going to work. We're going to live happily ever after. We're going to love each other till the end of time. But unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't quite pan out that way. People fall out of love all the time. Feelings are fleeting. People change how they feel all of the time. I've seen people who have been happily married for 25 years, and then they had children about 2 or 3 or 4 years in there, and now the children have all grown up. They kept the marriage going because the children were there. And now all of a sudden the kids have grown up, they've left, they're all living, that they're total strangers. They built their whole 20-something year marriage on their children. They talked to each other through their children. There was never anything binding them together once the children came along, and now the kids have left. They're like total strangers. They have nothing to say to each other. They can't agree on anything. They don't have common things that they're interested in anymore. They've all grown apart, and people have split up. I've seen it time after time after time. Couples in their late 40s and 50s, after their children have gone into tertiary education, they don't even know how to be with each other anymore. And so people split up on those bases. God forbid that happens, but the truth about it is that it does happen. It's happening to people every day. And so it's important sometimes to be proactive rather than reactive to things that happen. And in this world that we live in, I am a firm believer that experiences that other people go through or we go through ourselves are invaluable to us learning life lessons out of it and protecting our own selves so that the same things don't happen to us. And so in this whole joint account conversation, you may choose that I don't want to have a joint account. I'll have my account. You have your account. At the end of the month, we'll create an account into which my financing and yours goes into, and we all pay the bills that need to be paid for the upkeep of the house. Do what works for you. Now, one of the things that I have seen that causes a lot of rift in this whole financial conversations with families, especially in our communities, is that we Africans or people of color have been raised to, at some point, support our parents when they're elderly, when they are getting on in age. A lot of us have to support them financially because in the West, in Africa, a lot of countries don't have a good enough pension system in place. And so your mom could be a professor, could be a nurse, could be a doctor, could be whatever. But when she comes to retire, or he comes to retire, being your dad, they don't have enough in their pension pot to be able to live a well enough life. Sometimes by the times they hit their 60s and 70s and all of that, they have health challenges that take a chunk out of their pensions because the medications and the health care that they need cost money. Now, then the children are left to having to support their parents in older life. If you don't have those kinds of conversations with your significant other before you say I do, that can become a huge source of confrontation and conflict in your home. So imagine that you're married to a man whose parents all passed away when he was young, so he doesn't have no parents. You have two of your parents as the wife. You have to support your dad because your dad is diabetic. You have to support your mom because your mom isn't able to move properly. They need a lot of physio, all kinds of things that cost money. And that, well, part of marrying me and being with me is that you're embracing the fact that I have to support my parents. And so at the end of the month, I have to send remittances of X amount to support them. If you don't have these conversations and agree on what you're going to do, these cause a lot of conflicts between couples. Now, number 2. In the West, especially in North America, in Europe, most countries have their own tax filing system. Some people have to report their income, other people don't. In England, you don't have to file your taxes every year. The taxes are taken at source before you ever see your salary. And so the tax system is already in place. I never filed my taxes as an employee when I was living in England. I wasn't obligated to do that. If you had a business, that was a whole separate kettle of fish. But as an employee, I never had to do it. However, in Canada, it's a self-assessing system. At the end of the year, you tell the government what you made. Let them assess your taxes and determine whether you pay too much and therefore you get a refund, or you underpaid, in which case you owe and you pay taxes. That's how it works in Canada. That's how it works in America. Now, the thing is that you may think, oh, then I can lie. If I made 100,000, I can tell them I only made 50,000 and, I don't have to pay that much taxes. Yeah, that's not how it works. So as an employee, at the end of the year, whoever you worked for, they have to report what they paid you to the government. Right? And then you have to also have a copy of what they paid you, which they've told you. And that's what you would use in filing your taxes. When you file those taxes, the government will look at it and see whether what you reported is what they actually paid you, because the company has already sent a copy of what they gave you to the government. So they can review, they can see whether you've reported everything correctly or not. Some people decide that taxes is too complex. Me, I don't even understand it. So, I'll let my husband take care of the family's taxes. Now, as a couple, you can file your taxes together. However, each individual in the Western culture has their own unique social insurance number. Or in England, we used to call it something else, employment insurance number or whatever it is. But You have a unique number that you are identified by. So whether you file it as a couple or not, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, there's a number that is associated to you as the wife, to you as the husband. And so even though you're a couple, the government is still able to see, oh, okay, Amamansa made only 30,000. Is married to Kofi. Kofi made $100,000. And so, okay, the family's income was 130 grand, but 30 of it was what Amamansa made. And this is what the spouse made. In some homes, it ends up that the wife is actually the more significant income earner. But they don't have the know-how to know all the ins and outs about taxes, so they relegate that to their spouses to do. Again, there is no right or wrong answer about how it should be done or who should be responsible for that in your family dynamic. But all I'm saying is that if you're really going to be people that are very open about your relationship in every aspect of it, then even though you may not be the person that is ultimately filing the taxes, you've relegated that to your husband because he knows the technicalities more than you do, or the husband has relegated that to the wife because she understands it better. However way it works for you, do it. But I'm saying that you still need to be aware of what is happening in the tax filing. Whether you got a refund, whether you had a balance owing, you need to know what is happening and be abreast with your finances in your home. What I've seen some of my sisters do is that, it's too much for me, I can't do with it, and they allow their husbands to do it. Now, if you're married to somebody who's very vindictive, and I've seen this happen so many times, the men keep quiet about the fact that there was a refund. Maybe the woman made a lot of money, but she put a lot of it also into things that you can claim as deductions on your taxes, like retirement pension plans and, claiming your child as a dependent on your taxes, whatever. Now, the husband keeps quiet about the fact that the wife made $5,000, $10,000 in refund because she paid too much in her taxes. When sometimes the wife will ask the husband, so did I get a refund or did I have a balance owing? The man will say, oh yes, you got a refund, but you only got $1,000. When in actual fact, it was 10 times that amount, or 5 times that amount, or 3 times that amount. The husband pockets the rest of the money and gives the $1,000 or $2,000 to the wife without her knowing what is happening. I can't even tell you how many times I've seen that happen. And so I'm saying that the Caucasians seem to get this whole openness about everything correct. There's no hidden agenda. They are true to each other. They are trustworthy. They are honest. They are everything. When it comes to us, that is not how it happens. You see, I've come to realize that not everybody is going into marriage because they really want partnership, where, you tell each other everything. People have hidden agendas and reasons why they want to get married to you. And if you don't get with the program to understand what is happening, you'll be taken advantage of. There are some people today, the only reason why they want to be with you is, this woman has a good body. My children will look very nice. Yeah, I think I want her to be the mom of my children. They'll go and have children with you, and that is their prime reason for wanting to be with you. There are some wives today, the only reason why they're sucking up to you is because you have a lot of money. You can make their lives easier. If they work hard and make a lot of money, then they can keep their money. They can save it. They can, have assets for themselves. People have become more calculating in determining who it is they want to spend their lives with. People are not just going into relationships anymore for love. Oh, I love him so much, or I love her so much. People are picking based on what works for them. It's a more calculated thing in determining who they want to be with. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, no. I'm not saying that. You do what works for you. But I'm saying that you need to be switched on about your financial health in your home. Because you'll be sitting there in this marriage thinking that you are happy, everything is going well, you know, you have the most fantastic marriage ever, the guy, they knock you well, but your feet is outside and you thought you were safe. You had shelter. But you're lying inside, but it's as good as being outside. Because whilst you're busy trusting your other half to do what is right in your marriage and keep things going for you, that person is also busy scheming and doing horrible things that are going to get you into trouble or leave you with nothing at the end of the day. And so it's important that whilst you trust your other half to take care of you and do other things, that you are fully aware of what is happening before you are trusting him. Yeah, you take care of things, but still, your eye is there. You're watching what is happening and being switched on so as not to be taken unawares. And I'm not saying that it's the husbands that cheat the wives all the time. It's vice versa. You need to know what is happening. It's all I'm saying. Now, the next thing is that we always are the sort of have money today. Things are working out for us today. Our life is great today. And many of us are not thinking about the fact that I'm 35 today, but in 20 years time now, I'll be 25, I'll be 55, I'll be 60, and I'll be getting on to retiring. How am I retiring? There's so many investments that you need to, little drops make a mighty ocean. If you start squandering and spending everything that you have now without anything going, no matter how little, into a retirement pot that is going to serve you in those later years when you need a lot of money to stay alive and pay for your wellness, you're going to be shocked, A lot of people rely on the government's own pension fund that they've created for us. Here we have, depending on what you do, if you work for the federal government, for example, or local government, they all have these pension things in place. And, if you get to work for them for a long time, that pension can be significant. But if that's your only thing that you're banking your hopes on, without knowing what is going to come about in your future, you might end up finding that, yes, you had X amount of money and it seems like a lot of money. But these days, people are living longer, especially those of us who live in the West. And so if you're going to be living till you're way into your late 80s, 90s, you're retiring at 60 or 65, you still have 20 to 25 years to live. The cost of living is going up. It ain't coming down. So yeah, you have a house that you've paid for and you don't have a mortgage anymore. But what about the health challenges that you have? Because if you live in a place like America, you can come from grace to grass very quickly. All it takes is for you to have one heart attack and you need some kind of surgery. And that can be life transformational. If you have a house, it's fully paid for, but that surgery that they have to do on you to put a stent in somewhere and help your heart to keep going, that thing that you have to do is going to cost you $500,000. Your insurance only pays 80%, 90% of that. Well, 90% of $500,000 still leaves you with $50,000 that you have to pay. How many people are sitting around with $50,000 savings so that when something happens, you can just give $50,000 and your insurance will pay the rest and you're happy? How many of us have that? And so if you're banking all your hopes on what you're earning today and spending all of it on everything without thinking that you will live for tomorrow, so you have to have something in place for your retirement, you're going to be very disappointed. A lot of us Africans rely on our children. They've become our insurance, our pension pots for the future. But the way the world is going, a lot of people in their 30s and 40s today that have children, even you yourself, you can't look after yourself now. You're struggling. How do you think your kids in 20 years from now, even when they have a PhD or they have this huge job that pays them $500,000 and all of that, how do you really think that your kids are going to be able to afford to look after themselves, their spouses and children, and have things left over for you? And so this conversation needs to change around how we are seeing things that we have been used to and brought up with. The fact that you are looking after your parents today back in Africa doesn't mean that your children in 20, 30 years from now are going to look after you. Even if they want to, they may not be able to afford to be able to do that. And so it falls to you to start putting little monies away right from day one when you start working. The more you invest in these pension plans, the much more money you would have later on in life when you've retired. And trust me, when you're older, it can be a lot more expensive to survive because now your body is degenerating. There's so many things that are going amiss in your life, and you need money to keep tabs on your health. Today, you have to go for blood pressure appointment. Tomorrow, you have to get diabetic medication. Next day, the nurse has to come for this, that, and the other. It is expensive. Quite apart from the daily living expenses, your house, your heating, your gas, your this, your that. It is expensive. And so at the end of the day, it falls down to us as Africans to make sure that we don't live a life that means that our children are burdened with the responsibility of looking after us when they can't even look after themselves. Life is hard, as we have seen it. Even now, worse, on the back of COVID, like all countries seem to be in some kind of a recession. Even that it's not happening, but it's happening. From the US to Europe to everything, it's happening. And once we in the West are struggling, what do you think is happening back in Africa? It's worse. And so my sister, my brother, I know that, times are hard and we are all just trying to keep body and soul together, but it's also important as a couple to think about how are we retiring? Where are we retiring? What are we going to do? How are we going to survive? If you're sitting here and in your 50s and 40s and you've made your children your pension plan, that's not fair. Because in 10 to 15 years from now, when your children are in their late 20s and 30s, they haven't even found their own feet. Let's talk about being able to have enough to survive and support you on top of it. It's a huge burden. And so if you love your children and you want to give them an edge in life, look after yourself. Put measures in place so that when it comes to that time, you have enough to live off and survive on. And that comes with making little contributions now towards the future. A lot of us say, oh, but, what even shows that I'll live till I'm 60? Why should I put money in a pension plan that I may never use? Well, what if you do live till you're 60 and beyond? What are you going to do then? Growing up in Africa, I saw a lot of people, because I used to live on a university campuses. I had a parent who was a university professor, and he taught for many years. Right? And I got to see how a lot of people lived. It was a whole community, like a little village on its own. And I saw people who invested so much in their sisters' children. We have a matrilineal system in certain tribes in Ghana. And so the men would look after their sisters' children, sometimes to the detriment of their own children. Because when they're not alive anymore, it's their sister's son that would inherit them, blah, blah, blah. They didn't do anything for themselves whilst they were living in the university campuses that had, accommodation, a house provided as part of teaching on the university campuses. Some of the wives could foresee what was going to happen. And so some of the wives quietly bought land and started developing their land and building houses and doing little things. These men were out there. Some of them too had side chicks. They were married though, and they had extramarital affairs all over the place, giving out monies to young chicks. Then the 60th year came. And in that university, once you hit 60, you've got 3 months to vacate the premises because there's a younger lecturer who's coming to take your house. So I saw a lot of people moving out, and there was nowhere to go to. Some people had uncompleted buildings to be retiring to. Now quickly they have to make some 2 rooms, so that they can go there, and then they will use whatever to finish the house. I saw that. I saw other people who had to go back to their villages that they never lived in for 40 years because they don't have anything. You don't want that to be you. Because those who went for the side chicks and all of that, their wives now have a house. And so now that it's time for them to move, they are moving to their house. So now the husbands don't know how they're actually going to ask their wives whether they are moving in with them or they're not, because they didn't treat their wives well when they were together. They spent all the money on side chick. The wife didn't have much, but the little money she had, she was managing it and managed to put up some nice 2 small bedroom house somewhere. All I'm saying today is that the fact that you're comfortable today doesn't mean that your tomorrow is guaranteed to be like that. Unless you start putting little things in different coffers for your retirement, yours can be a very miserable retirement. Financial management. Who do I entrust the house upkeep to? Who is going to look after things in our finances? Some husbands are very good at that. Some wives are very good at that. But at the end of the day, if you're in a partnership, you have to understand that there's no selfishness in a partnership. Because in a partnership, all the people that are partnered in this partnership understand that if the ship sinks, all of us are going to die. If you have that mindset and your significant other also has that mindset, you have a good team. That kind of relationship with our significant others. Both men and women on either side of the fence. Some people are very self-centered. Some people are very selfish. Some people, because of the horrible upbringing they had, maybe they came from a family where there was a lot of scarcity. And so now that they have money, they don't even know how to have a healthy relationship with that money. The money has become a demigod that they're worshipping. And they're very, very tight-fisted when it comes to the money and don't want to let go of anything. It's difficult. But if you both understand that it's a partnership and that we all have to survive, I mustn't do anything because I'm thinking, well, even if the ship sinks, I can jump off before it sinks, then you have a good relationship. But if you don't, what would you do? At the end of the day, if 2 people are living together, they should both be involved in how the family survives. Some husbands make a lot of money, and so they can afford to look after the entire family and not demand any support from their wives. I've seen it. And some men are happy to do that because they understand that, well, if I'm the head of the house, then it's my responsibility ultimately to make sure that my wife and children are well looked after. But the fact about it is that not everybody is making $500,000. Not everybody is making $1 million. Not everybody is making 6 figures to be able to do that. And so some husbands need the support of their wives to be able to keep things afloat. Some have the conversation, okay, I would pay the mortgage or the rent and the utility bills as the man of the house because it's my responsibility to make sure that my wife and children have a roof over their head. I would pay for the car that we have and provide all the insurance and everything that we have for those 2 things. Okay, Can you be the one that buys the food that we eat in the house and pay these little, phone bill and whatever for the house? That's how it works for some people. But overarchingly, whatever you decide to do, there must be a conversation about financial management and how we're going to. So what are we even going to do? We're going to marry. What are we doing? Okay, this year, let's work hard. Let's save this amount of money. Let's buy a second property, which becomes a rental property, which generates us income for the future. So that in 20 years, when we are old and we can't work anymore, we can sell that house and we can be living off that money little by little. That's somebody's way of doing it. There are couples that I've met that have 4 or 5 houses together. They're in a partnership. They have understood that we are in a team. We are not fighting each other. If one person sinks, we all sink. We are in this together. Let's make it work for us, for our future. And it's working. But I've also seen people who are married, and you would think that they understand what marriage is, but unfortunately not. The wife thinks that, well, it's his responsibility to make sure that I'm fed and I get everything that I need. So, I don't care. And the woman is secretly doing her own thing. The wife has already bought her own plot of land somewhere and she's building a house back in Africa. Some people have bought second properties wherever they're living and their spouses don't even know about it. The things that bring these things about is when the people in the marriage have not understood the fundamental thing that it's a partnership and not competition of one against the other. Now, all I'm saying is that when it comes to asset acquisition, and you're both a couple in partnership, nobody should try to pull the wool over the other person's eyes. Because increasingly, I have seen people who have worked hard, saved a deposit for a house. They marry the husband. Husband comes in. Now they go buy a house, and the house is only in the name of the husband, not the wife. And the wife is working so hard, overtime, doing all the hours God sent, and paying for the mortgage of a house that you don't even have your name on the dotted line on. I don't understand that. Now, why this is important is this. If your significant other passes away, where are you and your children going to sleep? You see, when you love somebody, you want to see them do well. You want them to have the best of everything. You don't want to love somebody, but then when it comes to, security financially, they're wanting. When you really, truly love somebody, and this goes both ways, so I'm not saying husbands are horrible, wives are good, or vice versa. I'm just saying that when you love somebody, you provide for them. The husband, your responsibility is the 3 P's. You profess your family. That means that out there, when people are being horrible to them, you are the one that will be in their defense, whether they're there or not. You protect them against anything, and you provide for them. You're a wife, you've come into the marriage. What is your financial responsibility to your husband? It's a partnership. I bring X amount in, he brings Y amount in. This is money that is coming into our family. How best do I protect it? Would you be selfish enough to say that, oh, I don't care, he gives me $20,000 every month, and I spend $5,000 on a mortgage, and I spend another $5,000 on the children's upkeep. So now there's $10,000 left, and I'm just going to go shopping and buy all the nice things that I want. And don't think for a second that as the wife, as the helpmate, as the person that is supposed to support my husband, that, oh, there's actually this investment. I've heard so much about it. Maybe I need to tell Papa Nkechi about this and see what he has to say. Maybe if we put some $2,000 out of the $20,000 coming into that thing and it grows over time, that's extra money. Or are you going to be that woman that just spends frivolously and not that virtuous woman that the Bible talks about, that is supposed to be had by the spouse, the husband, to make everything the way it needs to be? You see, the whole thing is this, is that when you don't understand that this marriage of mine is a partnership and there's this competition or rivalry between the two people that are supposed to be championing this ship and making sure it docks safely, catastrophic things happen. I have seen a husband. The wife has worked so much. She was the more significant income earner. They have decided that they want to move to Africa. Once their children are old enough, they want to retire back in Africa because it's much, much easier there. If you retire in the States or in England or whatever, you just get put in a residential home and that's it. Well, I don't want that. I want to go back home. So that's the plan that they've made. The wife makes more money. Okay. The husband, yeah, he uses his little bits and bobs here and there to support the wife at home. So now the wife has bought 2 plots of land back home in Ghana and, has started doing something. Because she works all the hours God sent, she says, okay, I'm making my husband the project manager. Every 6 months, he will buy a ticket and he can go and see what is happening to this house of ours and, give updates and everything. This man of a side chick. And now he's put his name and his side chick's name on the house. The woman has been working as a nurse like a donkey. Saved up all this money. So every time the man is going, there's some $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 that is going into this house because they want to finish it, maybe even rent it for a few years and then, see to it that the last children have gone to university and they're comfortable, then they go back. The woman wasn't paying attention to the deed on the house and that the papers are in their names. She trusted the husband so much. Now this house is ready. The husband dies. This woman thinks, well, we have a house and whatever. And now she's gone back to Ghana only to find that not only that her house, her name is not even on the deed. The husband put his name and his side chick's name on the house. So she has just invested money in something that is now nothing. There's all the court battles going back and forth, the emotional, psychological, financial loss that has been caused to her. We can't even begin to put to words. When there is a partnership, both people understand that we are working together as a team and not against each other. Good things happen. But when one party thinks that I'm clever, I'm just going to use this woman. I'm just going to use this man. This man, I don't even love him anyway. I just felt that, as he'll be a good dad to his kids. So I just had a kid. I had a kid or 2 with him because I know he's financially able to look after the children. But as for me, when the kids are old enough, I'm just going to leave. Horrible things happen. At the end of the day, if you come into a conversation with clean hands, what should happen is that every asset that you jointly acquired during the pendency of that marriage or relationship should be in your both of your names. So that when one party is not alive anymore, the other party would make sure that they protect those assets and leave a legacy for their children. But today, we are not seeing those kinds of things. We are seeing one party thinking that they are more clever and intelligent than the other, and this one is trying to pull the wool over the other person's eyes, to cheat them out of the house, to take this and that and the other from them. Those things don't help. They don't help. So many wives today living in the West have given women a bad name in marriage to a lot of the brothers, because the husband lives with you, you have confrontation, there's an argument, you're trying to solve your issues and whatever it is that is happening. But because the law is always seeking to protect the woman and the children in the West, some of my sisters have taken advantage of that situation and always want to put the men in places that are just unconscionable. And that is not good enough. That's not good behavior. Yes, I'm a woman, it's true. I love women. But it doesn't mean that when women are doing things that are silly, I'm not going to talk about it. I will. You can't struggle with somebody or watch somebody buy a house. They marry you, put you in that house. Now, later on in life, you have this idea that you're going to do something and pull the wool over his eyes so that you can take that house from him, and think that the universe and all the forces of this life will just watch you to be able to do that. My sister, it doesn't happen like that. When issues come about, and I have a zero tolerance for any kind of DV of any kind. Domestic violence is not acceptable, whether it's the husband doing it to the wife or the wife. But some of my sisters seem to have studied the program and have decided that when they come into these spaces, and because they know that the system supports and protects women and children, they have made up their mind that they're going to teach this man Pepe. They're going to take the house from him and everything that he has. That is not acceptable behavior. It's not. And when you do those things, yeah, the law may be on your side. The law may do this, that, and the other for you. But I can guarantee you that your life would not have a happy ending. Just like you try to cheat somebody else out of what was rightfully theirs. I find that later on in life, they go and meet some younger guy and whatever, and now they think that that house that they've taken, they can give it to him. And that person also does what you did to your ex-husband to you. You think you are smart. He also outsmarts you and takes what is rightfully yours from you. So the bad vibe is on both sides. The men doing it to the women doing it to the men. But overarchingly, I am seeing that a lot of our brothers are not coming into the marriage conversation with clean hands and clean intentions. How can you work so hard with your wife that stood with you for many years, taking all the crap that you brought into the marriage, accepting it, living with you, paying her way, doing everything, and you now think that it's good behavior to take that asset that you jointly acquired and give it for free to somebody else? Now, I'm going to tell you guys the story as I conclude this video here, because it's getting a bit too long. But in the West, during this COVID pandemic, in the West, there was a woman in the medical profession, to be precise, that worked so hard. She was a nurse. Unfortunately, she had a condition that meant that her immunity was not on point. And you know that when COVID happened, the people that were had immunity deficits were the ones that we needed to protect more than everybody else. So if you had cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, and all those issues, you were more needed to protect yourself and make sure that you don't get the virus, because those people had worse chances of surviving. What did he do? She got this condition and was in remission. She was advised not to travel throughout the whole pandemic, but then her in-law passed away, and she decided that she was going to go support the spouse through the funeral. Something she shouldn't have done, but against best advice, she still went ahead and done it. Unfortunately for her, on the way back, somebody had the virus, and it was passed on through that whole traveling back by air. And this woman came back and got the virus and got the illness, and she didn't have good prognosis. Sadly and unfortunately, she passed away with 3 children left behind for the husband to look after. They did everything. They supported him through the funeral. There were some friends that even, gave him a loan to go back home and do what he needed to do to lay her to rest, yada, yada. This woman, being in the medical profession and understanding that by putting yourself out there all the time, you're at a higher risk of contracting something, you could, not make it. She had life insurance policies because she has children, and she needed to make sure that even in her absence, her children were provided for. Time went on and went on. The funeral has had 6 months, whatever came and went. And finally, these life insurance policies were paying out. And the payout was significant, like 6 figures, a lot of money. Do you know that the father of the children, he is their biological father to these 3 children? He took the money, went back to Ghana, bought a house in his name. He didn't think about, okay, I need to have an educational fund for my children. I need to make sure that, anything could happen to me too. I need to do something like buy a house in England where they were living and make sure that my children are provided for. If I perish, that house can be sold and the children can have dividends out of that to live their life. Took his wife's life insurance back to Ghana, bought a house, and now has put his side chick's name on the house. In fact, less than a year after the wife had died, there was already another woman doing crocodile style, mosquito style on the same bed that man shared with his dad. Today, the deceased wife's parent, mom, has now had to move to be the one that is the parent responsible for the upkeep of the children. This man abandoned his own 3 children, took over a side chick who has 2 children, and is looking after that woman and her children to the detriment of his own 3 blood children, whose mom has died and is now being looked after by their grandmother. These are the sorts of silly things, excuse my French, very stupid things that some of my brothers do that is completely senseless. If you know that you can't be a good parent, you don't care about having children and being responsible for those children, then don't have them. But you see, things like this happen in our community, and these are the reasons why certain women and certain men have a different attitude and approach to marriage. Because as I said from before, we always learn the valuable lessons from what has happened in other people's experiences, because it is said in this life, to be forewarned is to be forearmed. And it's unfortunate that you can be married to somebody for years, love them, devote time and everything to them, and this is the thanks that you get when you're not alive anymore. It is happening. It is happening. In real time, it is happening. Some of my sisters are not, do not escape this. I've also seen, women that look like me. They have children with men. They decide that this man, I don't want him anymore. He can't even do the do properly. I'm not interested anymore. They leave. They leave the men with nothing. The men take the bull by the horns. They're trying to look after their children. This woman will still not give them peace. And you see, when you live in North America, you can't cheat the system. Both men and women. A lot of my sisters think that when they drive the men out of the house and all that, the man will now still have to pay them child support, and they're so excited. But they don't remember that it works both ways. If the man is the higher income earner, okay, yeah, he has to make sure that his children are being looked after. But there are also instances where the wife has left the children with the man and thinks they can fade away into the sunset. And the system says, hey, are you looking after your children? Because the children were not had by one parent. It's both parents that had the children. So this woman thought she could go back to her ex and live happily ever after and forget about the children until the system catches up with her. And now she has a bill of thousands of dollars of child support that she has to pay because she has to be involved in looking after the children. The fact that she doesn't want to clean their asses and do nappy changes and wake up in the middle of the night doesn't mean that she escapes responsibility as a parent. And so now she has to pay child support to this, and she is so mad. Literally telling the bloke, you know what, I'm going to make sure that there's an arson attack. I'm going to make sure that both you and these kids never see the light of day, blah, blah, blah. It's on both sides. But at the end of the day, you need to understand that having the good attitude and approach to financially deciding and determining how you want to live, especially if you live in the Western culture, you have your hands and everything else, and you understand how the system works so that you don't find yourself wanting. This is part one of this conversation. There's so much more to tell you, but this is part one of the conversation. I want to know what you think. I want to see your comments in the comment section. I want to plead with you to share this video because there's somebody that this video is made for. They need to watch this and grasp everything that we are talking about here today. If you don't get involved in the system, the environment that you live in, understand how things work. If you don't know, get information. That is another thing that we Africans suck at. We are so bad at it. We just want to come abroad. Me, I'm just happy working in the meat factory. I'm just happy working in the shop. I'm just happy doing this. But you don't integrate into the system fully to understand how it works, what the do's and don'ts are, so that you fully understand what you're doing. And if you don't do that, if you don't integrate into the system properly, if you don't fully understand what it is that you're living with, you always make life transformational mistakes that cost you money to fix. And so please, my brothers and sisters, let us understand that if we are choosing to be married, then it has to be marriage in the full sense of the word, i.e. that you're getting married for partnership with your other half. You can't do everything by yourself. It's important that you have help from your husband, from your wife. If you join forces, the sky is the limit. But when you try to do things for yourself, me, I'm going to be selfish. I'm going to teach him a lesson. I'm going to teach her a lesson. I'm going to take advantage of her. Those things don't have good outcomes. This system that some of us find ourselves in, especially in this province that I live in, Alberta. Alberta is a province that is pro-family. They love family units and making sure that they work. They support that. And most cultures do. But when one party thinks that they are more sensible than the other, you don't marry for the right reasons. You're trying to ride on the back of somebody just to get what you want. It's not a good thing. And trust me, you pay the price for it. And sadly, when their children caught in the middle of this, they become the victims of selfishness. They suffer the consequences of selfishness. So please, please, I beseech you by the mercies of God, before you get into any relationship, you need to have these important conversations around money. Who is the better person with money? Who is going to make sure that we have a budget and we stick to it? Who is going to make sure that we are acquiring assets for later life? What are we doing for our pension? Do we of part 2 of this conversation? Because if you do silly things, unfortunately, there are consequences. Some of them are life transformational. If you're a parent and you're listening to me today and you don't have a life insurance, you're selfish, because anything can happen. The number of your days you do not know. We all pray to God, God help us, protect us from evil, blah, blah, blah. But death is real. It's real. It's a part of life that none of us can escape. It's going to happen, whether you like it or not. This week alone, 2 people are 6 foot under that I know. 2 people. And none of them is more than 45. So it's a real thing. It's happening to real people in real time. You don't know when that time is. And so if you have children, please, life insurance should be something that is paramount in your mind. It doesn't even cost a lot of money. There's so many different plans in place. Some cost the same price that it costs for a cup of coffee a month. And yet, when you're not here anymore, there is something to give your children some kind of a footing in this cruel, horrible life of ours. And so please, please, think about your children. Some of us are so selfish because, well, my mom never had any assets for me. My parents never did anything for me. Why should I care? My children should also just go through life and struggle and acquire everything they want for themselves. That's selfish. How are you building a legacy? Something that you can be remembered for with that kind of mindset. Some of us just want to have children for having them sake, so that I can tick this box that, as a man, I'm all there and I can produce children. As a woman, I'm all there and I'm fertile and I can have children. But what are you actually doing to demonstrate that you're worthy of those gifts that God is giving you, and that you're a good steward to protect them and make sure that they have everything that they need? Those things are important, Those things matter. And so please, please, financial management, financial planning, asset acquisition and management, those are conversations that must be had early on in your marriage, that are revisable all of the time. You keep visiting them every time. And if you're the spouse that is the silent partner in that whole conversation and are trusting your significant other to do right by you, please, at least be switched on and aware of what is happening for your own sanity, for your own safety. The heart of man these days, and I say man and I use it as man and woman, is desperately wicked. And there is no art to tell the mind's construction in the face. Somebody can be laughing and showing you the 32 teeth. But if you were to know the evil plots that they had in their head for you, you would move and run from them. Some of them are some of the enemies that we are running away from. They sleep on the same bed as us. We are married to them. So please, it's important that you're switched on about what is happening. Have some kind of control over what is going on. Have a voice. Don't just leave everything to chance. Well, he's the man. Oh, me, I don't want any trouble. Oh, and you're just there. You don't know what is going on. What will happen when your husband isn't here anymore? What will you do? What will happen when your wife isn't here anymore? What would you do? What would you do? Please, please. It is important for us to be wise and to do things that protect us ultimately. And not to just live a life on a whim where we're just there thinking, well, whatever God wills for our lives will happen. God gives us wisdom. We need to apply, our senses to make sure that we are covered all of the time. And if nothing else, it's just for your own peace of mind. You are aware of what is happening. And there's no, shadiness or somebody trying to pull a wool over the other person's eyes anywhere. Transparency is important in partnership. So all the peoples that are vested in that partnership know what is happening. My name is Sika. I love you so much. And I want to see my community, my own people do better things, like make decisions that are worth making and not keep repeating mistakes of old or doing spiteful things to other people. Because a lot of the times we bite our noses to spite our faces. Nothing sensible about that. If you love your children enough and you want to see them succeed and thrive, you will do the things that are necessary to make sure that that happens. Anything other than that is selfishness, and there's a price to pay for that. And trust me, you will pay it. I love you so much. Have a fabulous day today, and please share this video. I beg you, please. And I want to know what you think about this video. There will be part 2 coming up. I love you. Stay blessed. Have a fantastic week ahead. May everything you touch be blessed. Amen. I love you so much. Mwah. Bye.